And welcome back to AgriTalk. As Congress continues to work on a GMO labeling bill, and of course, what's gone through the House may not make it through the Senate. There'll no doubt be changes. And the approach seems to be now a voluntary label for non-GMO products. And you have a uniform label, so you don't have all the different states coming up with different labels. A lot of support for that among ag groups. I think it's a good concept, a lot of good ideas here, but there are some concerns. And here to talk about some of those concerns is Misha Popov, who is a policy advisor for the Heartland Institute. Misha, thanks for joining us again on AgriTalk.
You bet, Mike. Good morning.
Okay. Now, it's often been said through this debate that, hey, USDA runs marketing programs, so it makes sense to turn this over to USDA and let them run this program when we get it established here. Are there some red flags there in your mind?
Oh, yeah, there's always a red flag when Washington wants to take something over. But in this case, the huge red flag, Mike, that we talked about last time was that there was a maximum permissible level for GMO content in non-GMO foods, in other words, in organic foods. And that's just horrible. The organic industry has been wishing for that for almost 2 decades now, that if only they could get Washington to agree that there is a threshold limit to how much GMOs are safe, then they could then argue, well, then GMOs aren't safe, that there's something wrong with them. We don't know what it is yet, but there's something wrong. Now, that maximum permissible level was taken out of the new version of Representative Mike Pompeo's bill, but it's been replaced with very loose language. It says the following, Mike. It says, the Secretary shall establish the requirements and procedures as the Secretary determines are necessary to carry out this program. It also says right in the next sentence that the Secretary shall consult with other parties as are necessary to develop this program, this labeling program. Well, who are these other parties? Who are they? Are they organic activists? Are they our European trading partners who have essentially banned GMOs in Europe? I mean, I don't think any of these other parties should have anything to do with this process.
One of those other parties could be the Secretary's boss. If the White House, whoever's in office, says, I want that done a certain way, or I don't want this included, or I want this changed, pretty hard for a Secretary of Agriculture to go against the boss's wishes.
Exactly. A Republican, Mike Pompeo, with some help from a few Democrats across the aisle, is essentially taking Congress out of the picture. He's also taking science out of the picture. As you just correctly put it, Mike, they're essentially handing all the discretion to the White House. So, yeah, if they want to put as we discussed last time, a 0.9% threshold on GMO content in organic food, and if it goes above that level, then that food isn't organic anymore. It can't be certified. Well, then the organic farmer can now sue his neighbor who's responsible for putting his organic crop above that level. If the president wants that, he'll get that.
Talking with Misha Popov, he is policy advisor for the Heartland Institute. All right, Misha, the concept, though, has been pretty roundly endorsed by ag groups. The idea of we have a uniform label. It's voluntary. You don't have to label something that has a GMO product. You would label something that does not have a GMO product in it. So that seems to be a good concept. These threshold levels, though, that's the fly in the ointment that you see. Are there any other concerns in this legislation that they're working on?
Well, no, there's no other concerns, but I will say this. I mean, we already have a free market. We already have truth in advertising rules. If Nabisco Foods or General Mills wants to either brag because their product does contain GMOs, and, in the future there's going to be GMOs that offer health benefits, higher niacin, higher iron levels. Or if they wanted to be opposite and brag to their customers that, hey, this product is GMO-free, like Cheerios recently went GMO-free. Either way, there's nothing stopping them right now, Mike, from doing that. It's all truth in advertising. It's free speech as well, one of the greatest American attributes, I would argue. So to come up with a law that sort of codifies that is really like coming up with a law that would allow you to have your radio program every day. You don't need a law to do that. You're going to have your radio program whether Washington says you can or can't. So that's a concern to me. As I said at the onset, anytime Washington gets involved, it's just, things get crazy. But no, to answer your question, the possibility of now putting in a maximum permissible level for GMO content in organic food, that is still alive and well in the new version of Pompeo's bill.
Yeah, this started out seemingly to make sure there wasn't a patchwork of labels across the country, get something uniform across the country. And it has kind of expanded beyond that. It almost like they're trying to make everybody happy. And what you're saying is they're putting actually GMOs, this industry, and the technology that we use in food production at risk here.
Totally. What will happen is existing GMOs will be grandfathered because the way the law works, the law works on precedent. So how are you going to stop, a million American farmers from growing GMO soybeans or GMO canola? How are you going to stop them? They've been doing it for 10 years. No organic activist and no organic lawyer is ever going to stop, GMO corn from going into 98% of America's corn land every year. But new GMO crops like GMO wheat and flax, which has been on the back burner now for over a decade. Yeah, any scientist, any company thinking of putting the money into bringing those crops to market, they'll say, it's not worth it, because our customer, the farmer who's going to grow GMO flax or wheat, that farmer just faces the possibility of a lawsuit. All he needs is one organic farmer somewhere in his neighborhood who may or may not, get upset. And there you got a lawsuit on your hands. So why develop new GMO crops?
So do you think this is an attempt by some, and could be an unintended consequence that others aren't even thinking about, that this could be a step towards some type of adoption of a European-style restriction on GMO farming?
Yes, unfortunately. In fact, if you speak to the National Corn Growers Association, the soybean organization, they all say that. They say, well, we have to think of our international trading partners. No, we don't. We're America. Henry Ford didn't care that he put Rolls-Royce out of business a century ago. Bill Gates didn't care who he put out of business anywhere in the world. We invented GMOs, and no, we shouldn't worry about what the rest of the world thinks. But the question is it an unintended consequence? If you speak to some people, Mike, like I say, the National Corn Growers Association being the most obvious example, they actually admit, well, it's time to, listen to Europe on this. And no, it's not.
Now, it remains to be seen what the Senate comes up with in their version of this, so there could still be some significant changes from what the House has been working on. Yeah,
totally. And I've asked ag lawyers all across America. I sent out a few emails over the last week asking them, have they ever seen a law like this coming out of Washington that has so much discretion in it? The secretary shall establish the requirements and procedures as the secretary determines are necessary to carry out this program. That's not even a law. That's like having a speed limit that says the driver of the car shall determine how fast he or she will go down this road. It's just ridiculous. You don't even have to write that down because I guess, the president sort of already has that power. Why are we codifying that? But yeah, this is not going to be good unless the Senate hopefully tightens that language up a bit.
Would seemingly give a lot of power to the secretary, which really, as we mentioned, de facto is just more power for the president then.
Yeah, and the president, he gets to have his cake and eat it too. We're talking about President Obama. He takes a lot of money from Syngenta, Monsanto, and he'll keep on taking money from them because he's not going to do anything to harm their crops. But yeah, he's going to also make the organic activists very happy by basically guaranteeing that you'll never see any more new GMO crops come to market. Look how many GMO crops, Mike, are already on the back burner. Another good example is golden rice, which we probably won't grow here in America, but it'll help millions of children in the third world. All such crops are now at risk.
Interesting. I would think it would also open the door to some more lawsuits as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, organic activists have tried many times to launch lawsuits against the GMO industry in one form or another. The most recent one was suing Monsanto directly. and it just didn't work. So, I think they've decided, the organic activists, it'd be much easier to sue individual farmers rather than try to sue a big multi-billion-dollar company like Monsanto. Just sue an individual farmer. And if you put, just a few farmers into bankruptcy, the message will get out. You better watch yourself, because the organic industry now has this arrow in its quiver.
Something really to think about as this labeling bill makes its way through Congress. Misha, thank you very much for being with us and bringing this to our attention.
Anytime, Mike. Have a great day.
You too. Misha Popoff, Policy Advisor for the Heartland Institute.